Steve Smith. I'm Matt Weiner. Great to have you with us. This was a fun game and a coronation for a team that was the better team throughout the series.
Yeah, it was, man. I will say, though, it was a treat to watch so many talented players on both sides. The skill level was just off the charts in this finals, and obviously the difference was Kevin Durant this year. Unbelievable way he was able to fit in, be able to score the basketball. Grant, you got to score that much. We've seen that before, but I don't think we've seen somebody go 50, 40, 90 in the finals and averaging that many points and that efficient.
Yeah, Smitty, Kevin Durant's efficiency in scoring in a multitude of ways was just so impressive. But you said it best. All these guys, Steph Curry was sensational as well, had a better finals performance, his best one, I think, overall over his 3 years. And then LeBron James, Kyrie Irving. I mean, just great players stepping up, but it was all Golden State. So much firepower. As King James said, they're a juggernaut, and they showed it here in this final game. But beating this Cavs team in 5, very, very impressive. Golden State Warriors.
I think if 2.5 hours ago we had talked about J.R. Smith coming into this game making 7 3-pointers, we would have all thought we were making another flight back to Cleveland and getting ready for a Game 6. The fact that 7 threes isn't enough against the Golden State Warriors, only 7 points off the bench for the Cavs. Just a relentless offensive team, Matt, that just kept coming at the Cavs, eventually exhausting them, wearing them down, and making some retribution from last year to come back and win their second title in 3 seasons under Steve Kerr as the head coach.
Well, there you see the scene inside the Warriors locker room as players start to make their way back there. The champagne will pop. We'll get plenty of interviews. We'll have players out here on the set here as well as the Warriors get a chance to celebrate for the second time in 3 years, as I mentioned, but for the first time as the Kevin Durant version. And this was a team that had significant turnover in large part because of the salary cap necessities of signing Kevin Durant. Couldn't keep everybody. Roughly half the squad turned over from last year's team here in the finals. So a lot of guys are going through this for the first time.
No question, man, and it's pretty remarkable. Obviously, Kevin Durant, including him in the mix with this core, sensational. But some moves bringing in Zaza Pachulia, JaVale McGee, David West, who played big tonight for the Warriors. So being able to still keep that flow, as Steve Kerr says, and that continuity with some new faces was just tremendous. But this team, they're so talented. And if they can keep that core together, I have a feeling they'll be in this position again many times in the future.
Stylistically, it's just incredible that the Golden State Warriors have such a selfless basketball team, Matt. And it was such a dichotomy of styles in the finals between the Cavaliers playing in isolation behind the talents of LeBron James and the incredible finishing abilities of Kyrie Irving versus the Golden State Warriors. Ball movement, shot making, player movement, off-ball screening and cutting and passing. And again, eventually just too much to wear down that Cavs defense that came in, stepped up during the playoffs, got sharp, got themselves back to the finals, but not enough against the offensive explosiveness of what Kevin Durant represented and the quiet leadership of Steph Curry, who almost averaged a triple-double for these finals. I thought he played tremendously well for Golden State.
Yeah, I look at it too. The questions we thought when you acquired Kevin Durant, they took away so many guys off the bench. When you look at this final game, they were a plus 28 from the bench, 35 points off the bench for the Warriors and just 7. I know the Cavs picked up a lot of guys, but they didn't pick up a lot of guys that can make an impact on the floor. And I looked at it, those guys struggled. You said it, Brent, we talked about it, we watched it. Iguodala was unbelievable.
Awesome.
And then I would say impact, when we all talked about having a great start, Zaza didn't score a point, but I thought what he did to start this game was phenomenal. The box outs, the tip outs, the offensive rebounding, possessions. He gave them big moments at the beginning.
The Warriors celebrate. Kevin Durant is the finals MVP. He's the first player since Moses Malone to change teams in the offseason and follow it up with a finals MVP the following season. The late Moses Malone did that back in 1983. And now Kevin Durant, who was criticized from a lot of different corners about joining the team that eliminated him, he and the Thunder last spring, comes here. The dream comes true as scripted. He walks away as not only a champion, but the finals MVP.
And Matt, this win here, this championship for Golden State, it validates Kevin Durant's decision. As you said, there was a lot of criticism, a lot of talk about him coming to this team But him coming out, putting up this kind of performance, and getting the MVP is just spectacular. And I'll say this to Brent's point earlier, the style of play made it so much easier for Durant as Curry makes the rounds. You know, he was a great player, we all knew, and a great offensive player in Oklahoma City. But you incorporate him into this style of play, it was easier. He didn't have to work as hard, didn't have to exert as much effort, and was more efficient, and that was obviously on display, especially here in the finals.
Is there something, Smitty, to be said, though, that Kevin Durant came to Golden State and he had a great season, a great regular season, had to come back from a knee injury that had the Golden State Warriors medical staff very skeptical if he could even return, and what kind of form would that be? But Smitty, to come here and do what he did in the finals, to rack up those kind of numbers, I think that's where the validation lies. It's not just joining the team, it's that in the biggest moments on the biggest stage that Kevin Durant was the biggest star of the Golden State Warriors.
Well, Brent, I think you and Grant made excellent points. Well, between us, we got a lot of years, a lot of old years, and I think what you said best is the style, but also add to this, and I know you guys would agree, I don't think you have a better character group with unselfishness, because you talk about Clay, Steph, and Draymond, all their accolades individually had to go down numbers-wise, and they welcomed him, and they took a, I wouldn't say a backseat, they just inquired him into what they were doing, and I think he's made himself a better player than what he was as far as defensively and passing the basketball, which is scary for a team like this when you have all those guys that connected.
It was a fascinating mix so many times. In the fourth quarter, we saw the classic Warrior play where Draymond Green winds up with the ball at the elbow, finds a cutter for a layup, but there were moments throughout the series where they just gave it to KD and kind of let him do his thing, shoot over smaller defenders like they were pylons, as if they were never there, and it's just a lethal mix.
No, it really is, and you know, it's amazing. You have a team that last year set the record for regular season games, very easily could have won a championship last year against Cleveland, and you know, if they had taken care of business. But even in that last game, that Game 7, and then the selflessness to step aside, a guy like Steph Curry, who I don't think gets the credit for being a two-time MVP, and saying, you know what, Kevin Durant, I want you to thrive. I want you to come in and be a part of this. I want you to be at your best, because I know that gives us the best opportunity to win. You don't see that happen a lot, Smitty, where an MVP steps aside for another MVP and makes him feel welcome. Not saying it was all on Steph, but really the ego of being that MVP star type player and allowing Kevin Durant to flourish. So it just speaks to what you said of the character that exists in that locker room.
We have no idea what we're doing. We have
What a scene there in the Warriors locker room. You saw Mike Brown, who came in last summer and became such a big part of this team, pressed into service because of Steve Kerr's health issues. Coached the majority of the way through the postseason after Kerr had to sit down after a couple of games in that Portland series. He's in the middle of that as the Warriors beat his old team that fired him 2 different times, by the way, Cleveland Cavaliers. All the new faces, some of the 2-time champions in there as well. Obviously Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andre Iguodala all winning titles for the 2nd time as a unit. Some first-timers. David West had never appeared in NBA Finals. He's now an NBA champion. Matt Barnes has a ring. Young Patrick McCaw.
Great moments in this game too, Matt. In that 3rd quarter, came in, had that follow-up bucket, and then came down, made the layup the next possession down.
Yep.
Lots of contributions for the team, and this is a moment where you think about all the hard work you put in from training camp, and you sit down in your locker, and just how special it is to be on top of the mountain and to do this together. Just 5 or 6 minutes of your team. I mean, you really remember those moments for the rest of your life.